Phantasy Star is one of those JRPGs where a spin-off or sister series, in this case Phantasy Star Online, has eclipsed the main games in popularity and these days probably in recognition too. I dabbled a bit in PSO Episode 1 and 2 back in the day on GameCube, but today I'm focusing on the OG first game. I've always seen Phantasy Stars 2 and 4 held up as stone-cold classics today, but I like to start from the beginning when feasible, especially for a series as small as this one with only 4 titles in the main franchise. First of all, can we talk about how stunning this game looks? It came out on the Master System, a contemporary of the NES, but it looks more like a SNES game to me. Man, I missed out not being a Sega kid. Colors are vibrant, there's plenty of varied locales, and enemy sprites are downright jaw-dropping. Practically every monster looks cool as hell, and finding out what kind of grotesque monstrosity I'd encounter next had me wanting to keep playing late into the night. I streamed my whole playthrough, by the way, which I do occasionally, and if you're interested in joining the Haven, subscribe for weekly streams, videos about RPGs, polls, and lots more. Anyway, I chose the Sega Ages version on Switch, which has the original game as well as an optional Ages mode that includes balance changes and extra quality of life features. For one, it's got a fast walk speed option, hell yeah, and far fewer random encounters, with each battle granting several times more experience and gold than before. To a guy with a huge backlog like me, that's fantastic. I don't mind lots of encounters in my RPGs, but fewer is fine by me. I get essentially the same experience minus a ton of extra time spent grinding, and moving around in this game is pure joy. Battles are neither too few nor too prevalent, and I looked forward to them throughout instead of getting sick of them by the end. If anything, battles might give too much gold, making expensive equipment only a short grind away, but again, I ain't complaining. Phantasy Star is an old game, and I was most interested in seeing what it's like and how it plays rather than going through a grueling old-school grind. As I understand, that's true of the original game, but Sega Ages Phantasy Star is pretty easy, maybe a little too easy. I died plenty, sure, but mostly when I didn't understand what spells do or didn't prepare enough for a boss. Beyond that, there's not much to worry about. The Sega Ages version's greatest godsend, though, is its in-game dungeon maps. They fill out as you explore, so there's still a sense of discovery, but it's impossible to get lost. I appreciate that, since I'm not so much into first-person dungeon crawlers, and maps make the experience more manageable and quicker, even if the sense of wonder and exploration that I'm sure many players appreciate does get lost. Of course, you can always play the original version, also included in the download, if that's what you're looking for. Me though, well, I would have gotten frustrated or bored trying to make my own maps, mostly because of how time-consuming that would be. Instead of a slow, plodding, careful adventure, the Sega Ages version turns the dungeon crawling into a fast-paced romp with a weirdly appealing pace. It's almost like playing Doom, if it were an old-school JRPG, with consistently fun, fast dungeons. Even when you have to backtrack through one or revisit one you've already gone through, which happens on occasion, due to the in-game map, they're quick, and the encounter rate feels perfect. There's one dungeon, for example, that acts as a pathway between continents. It's not very long, and I'd often get through it with only one encounter, or none at all. Major props to that kind of balance change. One thing I don't love, though, is how the map automatically marks areas with hidden secrets or false walls. That's too much assistance, even if I would be reaching for a guide without them. So while dungeons have been nerfed, it's mostly for the better, and there's still plenty of difficulty in just trying to figure out where to go next. This rarely feels like bullshit, though. If you talk to everyone and listen carefully to what they say, you'll do just fine. I had to check a walkthrough only a few times near the end of the adventure, and for an old JRPG, that's pretty good. While dungeons play out in first person, the rest of the game fits the traditional JRPG mold. Almost. There's towns, shops, plenty of NPCs with helpful info or not so helpful red herrings, equipment upgrades, spells, the whole lot. What sets Phantasy Star apart is its sci-fi setting. It's evident everywhere from the shiny, futuristic cities down to laser swords equipable by your characters. I said in my Star Ocean 1 review that I haven't played many JRPGs with that sort of flavor, and unlike that game, Phantasy Star leans hard into its sci-fi elements. You play as rebellious star heroine Alice, who travels on rockets between 3 planets, befriending all sorts of weirdos along the way to take down the evil king of the star system, Algol. Yeah, it's pretty much Star Wars, but so are most fantasy stories when you boil them down. There's even a Hoth approximate ice world, as well as a Dune-esque desert planet complete with sandworms. Phantasy Star doesn't hide its influences, and I love that. Beyond its setting, Phantasy Star doesn't stand out too much, except that it executes its mechanics well. It's a super solid and fun old-school adventure with just a little plot and characterization, where you have to balance MP and HP with the item economy like in most other JRPGs, and new spells come at a pace that feels good, although man, you sure run out of MP fast, so it's handy to have a ton of hamburgers to restore your health. Yep, hamburgers are apparently the best way to heal yourself, even in the far future. I also love how you recruit your party members through plot-relevant events that tie into the dungeon crawling. You might be looking for a quest item in some temple, then happen to run into Odin, a mighty warrior who got turned to stone by Medusa. He joins after you help him out, and turns out you have to fight Medusa later in the game. She's not just some mythological reference the devs tossed in. When I finally defeated her, it felt like I'd avenged what she did to Odin. That felt pretty good. And all the party members get a bit of background like this. Alice kicks ass to avenge her brother's death, Noah's a wizard who's kind of a wuss, and the cat Meow, yep, there's a cat in your squad, is somehow a strong mage? Okay, that one doesn't make much sense, but oh, he's such a cute kitty. The music's pretty damn catchy too. I don't recognize the composer, Tokuhiko Iwabo, from anywhere else, but at least a few tracks, especially the various dungeon themes, stood out as absolute bops, and you've been hearing them this whole video. It is curious how Phantasy Star came out only 2 days after the first Final Fantasy, if you can believe that, yet didn't see nearly the same success worldwide. Maybe most JRPG fans were turned off by the first-person dungeons, or maybe the Master System's lack of popularity relative to the NES played a factor. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below, cause I'm curious. Thanks for watching. Leave a like for that algorithm, subscribe for weekly videos on all sorts of RPGs, and have a blessed day.